to the Check Swing Podcast. I hate how that music just stops like that. I gotta figure something out about that. But welcome to the Check Swing Podcast, everybody. I'm sitting to the side for some reason. Get myself all set up. It is Thursday night. It's 9 o'clock, so you know what that means. It's time for your favorite baseball coaches to talk some sports, talk some baseball, and just talk some things in general. I am Jay, and of course, the star of the show, my man, Coach Santa. How you doing, brother?
Doing well, sir. Doing well, sir.
Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. Fall ball is getting ready to start. I know you are getting ready for that with your Rawlings prospects, I'm sure, and I'm back in the mix at a sense. So maybe we'll see each other down the road at some point. We might see each other, and that'll be fun. I hope so.
Well, actually, we were looking at the schedule. We're trying to schedule something at MSI for the middle or the end of October. I think there's a tournament being held up there. So,
okay, well, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I always love those because those are close to home. But we got a good show lined up for you today. Of course, we are going to be talking about some Eagles, some Phillies. We're going to talk about Serena Williams and her last run at the New York Open. At the U.S. Open.
U.S. Open in New York.
I knew I was going to do that. I was practicing in my head, and I kept saying I'm going to say New York. Flushing, New York, Flushing Meadows, or whatever you call it. And also, of course, we're going to be talking about some inequities and disparities when it comes to HBCU athletics as it compares to the PWIs. And if you don't know what the PWIs are, those are the predominantly white institutions. And we actually have a guest to talk about that. And we'll get to him in just a second. But of course, if you want to give us a call today, the number is right there at the bottom of the screen, 669-275-0323. That's 669-275-0323. Give us a call, and you can give us your opinions, your thoughts, and all that good stuff. I'm wearing one of my HBCU shirts. I've had it for a long time. It's kind of faded there. It says Maryland State, now known as the University of Maryland Eastern Shore. I wear it proudly. The New Twist Radio colors are based off of that. And our guest today is also an HBCU grad. So, you know, he has got a lot of experience in talking about these things. I'm going to introduce him in just a second. Actually, I'm going to introduce him now. Without further ado, let me bring in Mr. George Robinson to the call. George Robinson, thank you for being with us on the Check Swing Podcast. How are you, brother?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Doing good. Cannot complain. We brought you on the show this week because week 1 of college football has passed, and there was a matchup of Florida A&M University. And first, let me go back because this is so unprofessional what I just did. I just wanted to jump right into it. On the phone we have George Robinson, Director of Development at Drexel University, and he was a former senior major gift officer at Florida A&M University. So the university in question and topic, Mr. George Robinson was once working in their athletic department. So he has some good insight that he's going to share with us today. So make sure you share this with all your friends and your family members and your enemies right now, because we're about to get into this conversation. Now, back to what I was saying, week 1, you had Florida A&M University traveling to Chapel Hill, North Carolina to play the University of North Carolina, the Tar Heels. And reading articles and seeing things, they had, looks like up to 26 athletes ineligible on the football team. And when I first read that, I said, wow, this is week 1, classes just started. How is that even possible? So I looked through the article and I see, that the classes they were taking in the summer didn't equate and all like that. And they have people in charge of making sure the student athletes take the right courses. Mr. Robinson, I want to ask you with your experience in these athletic departments, can you explain to us how this can happen in a school of the nature of FAMU, Florida A&M University?
Well, hey, it's good to be on the show. Thank you for inviting me on. I really do appreciate that. One of the things is, for things like this to happen, there's a communication issue There's also not enough staff to be able to handle this. I mean, how people ask, well, how do 26 athletes become ineligible and the season hasn't even started yet? And so how does and like you were saying, some of these kids came to FAMU or transfers. They came through the portal. Some came from community colleges or junior college. And there's a certain amount of credits, certain amount of classes that you have to take to be eligible and be in NCAA compliance. And so, you have to have people in place that have a true understanding of the NCAA rules and what needs to be done and what's required. And so when you don't have that in place, things like this happen. I mean, at FAMU, you have one compliance person and one so-called academic advisor. Now, Dr. Robinson, who's the president there, was speaking the other day and was saying that, hey, we have people in the compliance program on campus that were assisting the student athletes, but what was happening, they were giving them bad information. And so when you have people that don't work in athletics and not specifically solely athletics, things like this take place and happen. And, one of the things that hurts them is they don't have the leadership in athletics. Right now, they have an interim athletic director. The athletic director that was in place, he resigned because of some issues with the university and some things were taking place. Some contracts were told to be signed that the university was not aware whereabouts. And so now you have an interim in place and you're about to go into a season and, that person, usually is someone that's connected to the university, has worked in many areas. It could be athletics, could be something else on campus. So you're basically looking for a placeholder. That makes it difficult. It just makes it very, very difficult to, run a program and have people eligible. I mean, you can't do it with one person. It just doesn't happen. I mean, I can give you an example. If, 2 hours away at the Bethune-Cookman, which is also a HBCU, a part of the SWAC conference, their enrollment is just under 4,000. And they have 3 academic advisors for specifically athletics and 2 compliance officers. And you don't hear this type of stuff. That's one place. You look at Jackson State, which is one of the HBCUs that's being talked about a lot because of Deion Sanders. They have 5 academic advisors in place and 2 compliance officers in place. And you're not hearing about this stuff. And he's bringing in tons of transfers, tons of new students, and you're not hearing about this stuff. So the major concern that people are talking about is FAMU and how committed the leadership is to athletics. It's just very unfortunate situation that's taking place there, and it's a bad look. At other institutions, PWIs, they've had issues and things that come up, but it's solely focused on that institution, like University of North Carolina, Maryland, a Duke or Kansas. But when an HBCU is in the news like this, it just doesn't affect just that HBCU. It affects all of them because they group us all together.
Absolutely.
That's just the landscape the way it is.
In this particular situation, and we have a comment here from R. Ryan Hunter. He said, "Wow, that's half an NFL roster missing from one major game." And this was a major game. Florida A&M versus the University of North Carolina. Florida A&M has at least one NFL prospect, high NFL prospect, that was deemed ineligible for this game. And like you said, it gives a bad look to the HBCUs as a whole when one messes up, because it almost gives credence to the thought of why a lot of these blue chip athletes are deciding against going to an HBCU because of things like this. Let me ask you your opinion on this. Deion Sanders came into Jackson State University a couple years ago and put a lot of attention onto HBCUs. And I've personally, as a HBCU grad, I feel like it's deserved. But are the HBCUs ready for the attention that they are getting, being that there were years and decades of not being in the spotlight and not getting the blue chip athletes and not needing to um, do not having the funds to have the staffing that they need, so these type of things that happen to FAMU don't happen. Where are the HBCUs ready outside of Jackson State and maybe Tennessee State? Are they ready for this?
Well, what I will say about that is, obviously, yeah, the fact that Deion Sanders came to Jackson State was a great thing, because it brings a microscope to Jackson State and to HBCUs, and he's a voice, he's a marketing genius, and everything like that. But also, even in his comments, if you listen to him speak, he always talks about, we need to clean our in-house. Even at Jackson State, even with everything that's happened at Jackson State and how they operate, they got a new turf practice field. They're looking to build a new or renovate their stadium. They've got uniforms. They've got some funding that they've gotten from individuals, sponsors, and things like that. There's still things on the campus that has to be handled and taken care of. Um, and the thing, to answer your questions for, are they ready? In a lot of cases, I would say no. And one of the reasons is because, number one, you have to get your infrastructure in place. If you want the exposure, you have to understand that there's great consequences when things happen. You're under a microscope now. So when things happen and issues like this happening at FAMU with academics, it's going to be in the news. It's on the national news. It's on YouTube. It's in everything. It's a bad look for the university, and so it's very important for HBCUs to get their house in order from top to bottom, and it starts at the leadership at the top. It starts with your board of trustees. Who are on your board of trustees? Who do you elect as president, who sets the tone and puts the strategy and infrastructure in place to be successful? And they all have to follow his lead all the way down. And so when you don't have that, you're going to have some breaks in the armor, which you've seen at FAMU. And I know with a lot of HBCUs, they're underfunded. I'm an HBCU alumni graduate, and I went to Norfolk State University in Norfolk, Virginia. And so in a lot of cases, we've got to get our house in order. There's no question. I don't think we're ready for it. But if we're going to survive and make it in the next 50 years, we're going to have to, because if not, we're going to get left behind, and you're going to start seeing more depletions of other HBCUs.
Yeah, I was going to ask, do you feel like this is not the first time that, or I mean, this isn't the first time, but do you feel like we could be seeing this happen more and more as the HBCUs become a little more popular with the blue chip athletes? You know, how long does that take to get ready? How long does it take to get your house in order? I mean, these are things that really, I mean, let's be honest, these things should have been going on. The house should have been in order a long time. These homes should already be in order, right? There shouldn't be a thing as we got to get our house in order. It should already be in order. You're in university. You're a place of higher education. Things should be in order. Real one another quick comment from R dot from Ryan Honey said FAMU was prepared to cash that game check, but they weren't fully prepared for everything that comes along with it. But we have to build a foundation first. Absolutely, absolutely. Miguel, did you want to chime in on this conversation? This is, I mean, when I saw this, I'll be honest. When I heard about this, my heart broke for
Yeah.
FAMU because the game was like a 20-point game or so, give or take, and they were missing 26 players. Think about that. But go ahead, Miguel. I'm sorry.
No, I just hitting on that underfunding of HBCUs. I was wondering, what do you think would be a way to get, because I know sometimes the issue is getting alumni to come back and to give back to the university. Do you see it as a low financial turnout with gifts coming back to HBCUs because of everything that's gone on in the past?
Well, one of the things I'll say is because I've worked in athletics, but I've also been a fundraiser, and a lot of times what happens, specifically with state schools, you present your budget each year to the state. Funding for projects, renovations, new buildings, things like that, to get funding. And in a lot of states across this country, a lot of HBCUs are just underfunded. And, that's the underbelly of, a lot of people say just the disrespect and just the fact that, we've got to be able as a group of Blacks and African Americans to come together and demand more than what we have. We've been satisfied and been quiet way too long. We're not very aggressive when it comes to asking what we want and what we need. When we put people and politicians and things like that in office, we need to demand that they do more than what their expectations to put them in office. And when we don't do that, HBCUs, don't get the funding that they need. That's one part of it. Obviously, also the other part of it is this. Yes, I mean, from an alumni perspective, our giving for Blacks at HBCUs is very low. It's embarrassing, for pretty much. We spend more money on hair, clothes, cars. We're one of the biggest consumers in the world, but we can't give money to our HBCUs, to be able to grow and be successful. And I'll give you an example of how the PWIs work, especially in athletics. In my experience, I worked at the University of Florida, and I worked at Virginia Tech, and these are two Power 5 PWIs, especially in athletics. At the University of Florida, to be on the waiting list, and it's to be on the waiting list to purchase or have a luxury box at Gator Stadium in Gainesville, just to be on the waiting list, not to have a box, to be on the waiting list, is $25,000 donation per year.
Wow. Wow.
Just to be on the waiting list.
Like those seat licenses.
Yeah. Huh?
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So you have stuff like that, and then all your season ticket holders, all these college and universities, white PWIs, that these people are sitting in lower bowl seats. They're just not paying for seats. They have to pay a donation, an annual donation to the athletic department, just for the rights to purchase a seat. And that seat can be $1,000 donation per seat. Now, which includes maybe parking, maybe pregame, tailgate for our donors, things like that. But they think of athletics as a business for them, and so we have to start thinking at like business. The university is a business. Athletics is a business, and you have to run your operation like a business to make money. That's what it's about. It's about making money. And so we're just so far behind with that. And so, when you have someone like a Deion Sanders out of Jackson State, and he's trying to change things, he's coming from Florida State, and he knows what it looks like. And, he's talking about, hey, we got to get people to come to not just homecoming, come to all the games. Don't come to just the classic, come to all the games. Be a supporter. We have to start thinking, to get people to start thinking that way, to run everything like a business. But to do that, you have to put people in place that are going to move institutions forward. You can't continue to keep the same old Joes at the universities and just move them around. One of the things at HBCUs is that they don't fire people; they just move them around. And just move them around. And then you see if you look at a lot of leaderships and people in positions, a lot of that go to the HBCU, they go from one HBCU to another HBCU to another HBCU. And so, it's that cycle has got to change. We need new blood, and some of the issues that happen in HBCUs is when you have new blood, they're going to bring things to the table that people there are not used to. They're used to a certain thing all over again, doing what they normally do. When you bring somebody outsider that has no new ideas and is trying to create things, they don't like to get erupted what they're doing, and so that makes it tough. But to answer your question, you have to start running it like a business.
Man, I can't disagree with anything you said. I really can't. And being, I spent 4+ years at a HBCU, and you can always tell where the priorities lie, and it's not necessarily always education or athletics, or I mean, it seems like it's a case by case basis, or if it is athletics, it's football or maybe basketball, or it's actually that's really it, football or basketball, because those are the money making sports. But what you just said just now, I never knew schools like a Florida University, and I'm sure a lot, Alabama's probably crazy. 20, did you say 25,000 to be on a waiting list?
Yeah. Now I don't know what it is now. But also just another thing that's big, especially for athletics, is the TV contracts.
Oh, yes, absolutely. That's one of the things I wanted to ask about. The TV contracts, because that was one of the first things I noticed that I picked up on, and I guess what I say in my younger years. I'm in school watching a game between, let's say, Florida and Florida State, and it's on ESPN or it's on ABC or NBC, whatever the case may be. Notre Dame has their contract with NBC, and at the end of the game, you have Pontiac or Ford or whoever giving money to the scholarship funds, and I'm just thinking, like, why? How come that doesn't happen at a HBCU? Why don't we? How come there's no networks that will pick up these games and allow these things to happen, and so these institutions can get the money that these other institutions are getting? And that's one of the first things I picked up on. And I remember first couple years out of school, I want to say it was a football game or a baseball game, and I want to say it was on ESPN, and it was two HBCUs playing. It wasn't the Bayou Classic, but it was two other teams. And halftime show comes up. Halftime comes up. What do? They talk about the game. They show you the highlights of the game. Talk about what this team needs to do with this team, the adjustments and all like that. That didn't happen at halftime of this game. They talked about every other game on the docket from every other school except for the game that we're sitting here watching right now. And that really opened my eyes to, the inequities, some of the disparities between these schools and between the PWIs and the HBCUs. RDOT put another comment up there. He said my issue with alumni fundraising, I look at it like the building fund for the Black church. We give and give to programs and don't see the progress. After a while, we stop giving. And it's an interesting comment. Now, I admittedly not necessarily keeping up with, let's say, my school's push to bring football, but I've been out of that school. We're coming up on 20 years soon, and there was a push for football then, and there's still a push for football now to bring football back. And we're talking 20 years now, and I'm sure it was a push before I got there. I don't know where it stands, but when you're 20 years out and you're still not seeing football, and admittedly, I don't know how long these things take. It kind of, you look at it like, all right, well, what are you really doing? What's going on? Like I'm seeing, you got it. There's a lot of things that go into it. I'm not going to get into it, but ain't as much as a pigskin been on the field. since I left. But I'll leave it at that. Miguel, you got any last words before we let Mr. Robinson out of here?
No, thank you for your time. And one thing I did want to ask, because I'm actually a Drexel alum. I graduated, I got my master's in sports management back in 2016. So what was it about Drexel that pulled you away from FAMU?
Well, one of the things that happened, I won't get into a lot of the details. There were some things, unfortunate things that took place at FAMU, that kind of took me away. Some things took place, I'll say, that were unethical and didn't want to be a part of it. And so my mentor who brought me there pretty much was leaving, saying, hey, I'm not going to get involved in anything unethical, and decided to leave the university. And so pretty much when he left, I left. And it's a sad thing because FAMU is an outstanding institution. I mean, the potential of FAMU is just absolutely unbelievable. And the alumni is as strong as it is. And they Rattler Nation loves FAMU. And, it's a great place. But, when those things took place, I wanted to come back home up here is where I'm from. I'm born and raised in Westchester, Pennsylvania. So my family was here. So it was a logical choice to come back up here. And Drexel was gracious enough to provide me with an opportunity to work at a great institution. And, that's pretty much what happened.
Awesome, great. Well, we're glad to have you. We're gonna have to have you back on again, man. Great insight on this crazy situation, man. So much more that goes into it, and we'll have to have you back on. I'm sure something will come up where we'll have you back on, and we appreciate you joining us on the show today. And make sure you tell everybody that you were on the show and tell them where to check it out.
I will do that. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Enjoyed it.
All right,
Have a
appreciate it.
wonderful day and great holiday weekend.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You too. Thank you
Thank you,
very
sir.
much. Thank you very much.
All
That
right, thank you. Y'all
is.
take care.
Take care now.
Bye-bye.
Mr. George Robinson, Director of Development at Drexel University, former Senior Major Gift Officer at FAMU, Florida A&M University. So let me go ahead and mute that music there.
Should let it play. It might have transitioned a little bit.
Probably, but now I didn't screw that up. We thank you, Mr. Robinson, for joining us on the show today.
That is
Um,
deep, man.
There is, if you have any comments or opinions on what you just heard from our guests, or just in general, hit us up at that phone number you see down there. You see in there 669-275-0323. That's 669-275-0323. The inequities and they continue at HBCUs, but like we said, he said, guest said, you got to start from the top. You got to get your house in order to accept. Like you can't have house guests and your toilet nasty, right? Your toilet got to be clean. Your tub got to be clean. Your kitchen got to be clean. Your living room got to be clean if you're gonna have house guests. You don't want things to be in disarray, because once they get there, they see that you're not respecting your stuff as much as you want them to respect your stuff. And get your house in order before you get these guests in there, and and they'll come back.
I am glad that he touched on the funding and how when I was at the William Penn School District, the district had filed a lawsuit with the state of Pennsylvania, unfair funding. And I think when it first started, I was like, well, how does that formula work? Because I think Pennsylvania is one of only 2 or 3 states that distributes district funds or school funds to the school district, and they're based on property value. So, for instance, William Penn School District is literally across the tracks from Upper Darby, right?
Yes.
So Upper Darby, I'm throwing out a number, but I think the disparity is like Upper Darby gets, I want to say on average of about maybe 20 to 30 million more from the state because of where they're located. Now,
Wow.
here's the thing, right? If you look at all the schools in the district, and I hate to make this into like a, whatever, but just to kind of give it some,
Give us some
you know,
perspective on it.
perspective. So the only thing that a school district, a public school district, is allowed to do, they can raise taxes, real estate taxes. I believe the max they can raise it per year is like 3%. That's the only thing that they can do to generate income, right?
Right.
Now think about it like this. Upper Darby has what? 69th Street Terminal. Upper
Mm-hmm.
Darby has like a whole bunch of like shopping centers. I'm talking
Mm-hmm.
about the entire district, including Drexel Hill.
Right. Right.
William Penn School District has that little shopping center in Darby, the McDonald's, and the Wawa.
Yeah.
It's pretty.
And just to I believe, because I actually, there's a McDonald's on Baltimore Pike now, across from where that giant is, and I believe where the Goodwill is. I believe, because I went to the borough because I wanted to see what's going on with that Goodwill before it became a Goodwill. That is considered Upper Darby's property.
You know what else is considered Upper Darby property? You know
What's that?
that cemetery in Yaden.
With the green fence, or the Fernwood, the one across the bridge.
Yeah, on McDade and what is that? Not Bailey. McDade and
No way. That's considered Upper Darby.
it's
The
considered
one
Upper
in
Darby.
Yaden.
Penn Pines, the park and where the Penn Pines diner is.
Yeah, that's considered Upper Darby too.
That's considered Upper Darby. Some brilliant real estate person was like, I'm gonna mark the territory of Upper Darby in other people's boroughs that generate money.
How about that? Think about
So
that, people. Just think
right,
about
so it's kind of that urge of like, it's not to say that it's not just the alumni that's not giving back to HBCUs, but when you consider the unfair funding practices from the states. I don't know how I'm learning more about Maryland. I don't think Maryland does it the same way, but you still have the same inequity in the inner city. You have less money coming in than you do in like Bowie or Columbia or Laurel. You know what I mean? But Baltimore City still suffers because there's not much money coming in from
it.
the
Right.
state,
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
it's so blatantly obvious why. But
It's
so
well.
yeah, I
Let's
read
move on.
I was reading the 1619 project for my.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry. So
Mm,
I'm like, ooh, when they
yeah.
talk about Atlanta and yeah,
Yeah.
man.
Let's move on. That's a whole nother show. It's a whole nother show. And that's a whole nother show. But we're going to move
Woo.
on to something that wow, something that I knew the day was coming.
Too soon. It is too soon.
It seems too soon, it feels too soon, but I knew the day was coming when she would have to say goodbye. And it looks like that day is going to be sometime this month, within the next couple weeks. And of course, I'm talking about Miss Serena Williams playing in her last tournament, the U.S. Open. Her last going to be her last major tournament, and she's moving on to, as she says, other ventures. She's not going anywhere. She's not going away. She's just leaving the game of tennis. She's evolved beyond, which a lot of athletes have trouble doing. When you think about it, a lot of athletes have problems leaving the game and really, finding something that keeps their blood going. Um, you have athletes that get into other ventures, and they just don't really know what they're doing. But I feel like we've come into the day where a lot more athletes are making smart decisions and doing things and evolving outside, athletes and entertainers, outside of what we know them to do. Serena Williams is competing in her final major tournament. As I said, she'll be 41 years old later this year. And I for one, I feel like I watched almost their entire professional career because, as I tell people, I watched the game of tennis before the Williams sisters were involved. I don't know how much I'll be watching after the Williams sisters are gone, but it's been an entertaining ride watching them, and especially Serena, dominate the game for the last 20 plus years. Um, I'm going to ask you, Miguel. I'm going to put this out there because I put it out there last year, sometime, or maybe earlier this year, and I caught a lot of he double hockey sticks for saying this. Where do you rank Serena in the greatest athletes of all time? And if she's in your top five, give me your top five. If she's not, just tell me where you put her, and I'll do the same. She's in my top five for sure.
See, but I think we talked about this, and we have to talk about what the definition of a great athlete is. And I only say that because sometimes, like, people will say,
Get on
like,
here making me change my mind now.
no, because it's not just what they do on the field. Like there's an argument about, like, let's say LeBron versus Michael Jordan. Now, of course, Michael Jordan is the greatest, but I think LeBron has actually done more, not just for the sport off the court for himself, but also for other players. You dig what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like, once Michael Jordan retired, it was just, well, when's the latest pair of Air Jordans coming out? You know what I mean? And it's like you see pictures of him gambling, 3 million a hand and smoking a cigar, and then he got that divorce, and his wife got half, and all that good stuff. But when I think of, like, like, everybody knows about Babe Ruth because he hit all the home runs to the point where he hit more home runs in a season than most teams. So, but he brought the game out of kind of an old era, the dead ball era, and then there was a gambling scandal, or a baseball fixing scandal. So he brought the game out. Then you have, Hank Aaron, who wasn't, he was at one point the greatest home run hitter of all time. Never hit over 50 home runs, but he did it in an era where he was playing in the deep South and hit that home run while death threats were going on. So that's like, you have that. Then you have Jackie Robinson. So it's like, it's not just what they did on the field, it's what they did off the field. So when you think of, like, greatest athletes, Serena's got to be in the top five. I'd even almost venture to say top three. And I think she's doing it in an era where, finally women are starting to, you know, I guess, share the stage with men, so to speak.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, you've seen that. You kind of seen that a little more now in the new millennium than you did kind of when we were growing up and before that.
mhm.
Definitely. Um,
But yeah,
I'll
she's
put.
very five.
You say it again.
I said she's definitely top five.
Okay.
Um, and I'd even venture to say top three as far as, like, what she did on and off the court or off the field.
Yeah, she's. I mean, yeah, well rounded, doing things, fashion, financial,
Mhm.
tennis, athletics, raising a fam. I mean, here we go. R. Dot puts his top five. He says Serena is in the top five athletes of all time. He says one is Michael Jordan, two Muhammad Ali, three Tiger Woods, four Serena, and five LeBron. And while I do not have an issue with his with
I'd
his
actually
list, I kind of go in a different direction.
I'd actually flip Muhammad Ali and put him above Michael Jordan.
All right. So when I think of top athletes, and I don't remember my list I put on Facebook a while back, but I'll I'm gonna as it stands right now. I'm looking at my watch that I don't have on. September 1st, 9:40 p.m.
And that's Eastern Standard Time.
Eastern Standard Time for those that might be checking this out later or listening to the podcast later. Um, Serena's in my top five. LeBron is in my top five. Bo Jackson is in my top five. Will
No,
Chamberlain is in my top five. I'm gonna make my argument for Bo Jackson in a second.
no.
Chamberlain is in my top five. Jim Thorpe is in my top five. And if I have to put a couple more in my top five, that would be more than five. Jackie Joyner Kersey is in my top five. And of course, of course, you got your. Here's why I think Michael is the greatest basketball. Let me be honest. I'll be honest on the show. I think Michael's the second greatest basketball player of all time.
And Will Chamberlain's the first.
And Wilt Chamberlain is first.
I agree.
And I've been consistent with that for years. Okay.
I agree.
Now, here's why the most of the athletes I mentioned, not Serena, okay, and I kind of forgot my list, did more than one thing. Okay, Bo Jackson was a dominant force, albeit for a short time, in two sports at the same time.
So you mean Deion
Bo
Sanders
Jackson,
would be in like your
no,
top 10?
no, because Deion was not dominant in baseball.
Okay.
He was not a dominant force in baseball. Bo Jackson was an all-star in both sports.
Hey, Deion Sanders took that water bowl from Tim McCarver though, like a champ though.
Yeah, he did. He definitely did.
You're a
That
real
year,
man, Deion.
he definitely did. But Serena, and I heard this argument on TV yesterday, and I've made the argument before. Serena was so dominant in her sport, she didn't have a rival. Just like Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was so dominant in his sport, he did not have a rival. It was Mike and it was everyone else. It was Serena and it was everyone else. Now,
I would
and I'm going to
argue
tell you,
that.
I heard the argument on First Take yesterday, Mad Dog and Stephen A. And Mad Dog was talking about Steffi Graf, who was an amazing tennis player. She was an amazing tennis player. Steffi Graf had Monica Seles. She had Martina Navratilova. She had Lindsay Davenport. She had a lot of rivals. You take Serena out of the equation at that time, there's going to be a lot of athletes, a lot of tennis players that have rivals, the Sharapovas, I hate to say it, but Kornikova, however she became a number one ranked player, I don't know. But there were many tennis players that would have been rivals had it not been for Serena dominating the era. Mike dominated the era. Now, there's a caveat to my argument, and I'm going to put it out there before anybody else does. Wilt Chamberlain had one rival, but Wilt Chamberlain makes my list because Wilt Chamberlain was an amazing basketball player. He was an amazing track and field star. He was an amazing volleyball player. Wilt Chamberlain was amazing in the weight room. Okay, bench press more than Shaquille O'Neal, and we know how big Shaquille O'Neal was. Now he was.
He wrote a book about him being amazing in the bedroom too.
I have no experience with Wilt in the bedroom, thank God, but I've heard stories. Okay, it is what it is. Now, I wasn't going to put that in the equation because this is a new day. I'm not going to do that.
It's part of
his legacy. It's part of his legacy. But I wasn't even going to mention that. That'll put him even higher. But and now let me, the competitor that you are, Miguel, and I know you're a competitor because we was playing the game the other day, and I'm not even going to get into the details, but you were competing.
One fastball. That's all it was. I know hit you. Hit you.
You one hit me. Anyway, Wilt Chamberlain scored 100 points and then got into the car with the opposing players and rode back home to New York City with the guys he just scored 100 points on.
Here's what.
Are you riding home with somebody that just hit 5 home runs off you?
I might give him like lift fare or something, but I'm not riding with him.
He's not getting in the car with you.
Right. Wilt Chamberlain, the reason why you have to say Wilt Chamberlain is the greatest, even with the slight edge above Michael Jordan, is, again, in order for them to slow him down, they changed rules for him. Mm-hmm. Michael Jordan was the greatest basketball player to play within the rules. I mean, granted, when you're great in every sport, you get the foul calls, you get some favorable, situations. But there were really
Many favorable situations.
many
Let's
favorable,
be honest.
the
Let's
Michael
be
Irvin
honest.
push off. Yeah, got it. But I mean, they raised what they raised the net, they moved the foul line back,
They widening the zone.
they widened the zone. So it was like they literally
I mean the lane. Excuse me, the lane.
did almost everything to try to stop this man, and they couldn't, even with all the rules changes. Now, again, with Michael Jordan, yeah, the greatest within the rules.
Mhm.
Um, and Serena did. I mean, the one and most important rival that you forgot was Venus, her sister. They had
That
some
that would be the only one,
phenomenal
but
matches.
she dominated. Like Venus, I want to say the first time they played each other, I want to say Venus beat her in a final. But Serena dominated her. I think Venus might have got her twice in the finals. I think twice.
So Serena overall is 19-12 against her sister. They played 15 times Grand Slam singles, 13 times in other tournaments, including 11 finals. They met in 9 Grand Slam tournament finals with Serena winning 7. So she was 7-2 in Grand Slam finals.
Exactly. Venus
She
beat her. That's not a rivalry.
but she also had Martina Hingis, and she only leads her by
Let me stop you
one.
there. Let me stop you there. I agree with you, but I felt like Martina Hingis was more Venus's rival than Serena's.
Which okay, but she Williams leads that series 7-6, and
Who's
then
that? In
uh,
finals or just head to head? Period.
head to head period 7-6.
And let's not lose sight of the fact that the majority of the time they played each other was in Serena's the early days of her career before she became dominant. You gotta put that in there. You
I
gotta put
got
that
you.
in. R. Dot says the top four he listed didn't have rivals. I would kind of disagree with
Well,
that.
here's the thing, right?
Jordan didn't. I feel like Ali had a rival. I feel like Joe Frazier was Ali's rival,
Joe Frazier was definitely Ali's rival,
and
and
Ken Norton could have been considered a rival too.
yeah, good, but I
If
think Joe Frazier, because they had their relationship even after they both retired. So yeah, I would definitely say that was a rival. I mean, if somebody broke my jaw at Madison Square Garden, I'd be kind of pissed off. You know what I mean? The
Yeah,
next time I face him.
yeah.
Um, but even I would say Michael Jordan's rival. What people forget is that when Michael Jordan came into the league the first 4 or 5 years, he was known as a playoff loser. Because
Yeah.
remember, who was the team that literally physically and mentally and spiritually kicked his butt?
The
The
Detroit
Detroit
Pistons.
Pistons,
But
right?
before that, it was the Boston Celtics too.
Yeah,
Boston
but
Celtics.
nobody beat Michael Jordan down in the playoffs like the Pistons
The
did.
Pistons, I know, and people tend to forget those days. You
Mhm.
know, they only really talk about Mike from what was it 91 on the
Once he
six
beats once he beat the Lakers, then it was like, all right, well then
the Lakers with they were injured too that year. So I'm not trying
well
to see.
and they were
Um,
old, yeah, they were older
they
and
were
stuff like
old
that.
and they
But
were injured, and I think wasn't James Worthy was injured or Byron Scott was hurt or something in that series. That's whatever. It doesn't matter. The Bulls won. Doesn't matter. Um, but I find it hard to say that Mike had a rival during his prime. He, I just find it hard to say that. However, I am one that to believe that had Mike's Bulls played Hakeem's Rockets in the finals, the Rockets would have beat them. I believe that. I really do.
I don't know.
I do. I believe they would.
They might have given them, because I'm thinking like every time the Bulls won, did they wasn't I'm trying to think, did any series go 7? Didn't they go 7
No,
with the Suns?
not in the finals. No,
Not in the finals, right? No, they didn't
they
do
all
it.
they all went 6, except for the one against the Lakers, which went 5.
Well, I don't know. I always thought that the Suns went 7, but
No.
I could be wrong.
The only time they went 7 was actually in the playoffs, in the Eastern playoff. I think they went 7 with the Knicks one time, maybe, and they might have went 7 with the
Pistons. I think the
no,
Pistons.
not the
No,
Pistons.
no, no, it wasn't
I'm
the
talking about
Pistons.
ones that he won. The Pacers. They might have went 7 with the Pacers one time. I had to look that up. But back to the Serena is really like one of my top athletes ever because of the way she dominated her sport for as long as she dominated her sport. Once she she was 2-3 years in, started winning major finals, and there was no stopping her at that point. It took Mike 7 years or something like that. Tiger was one that kind of started dominating pretty early. Um, took LeBron a little while. Muhammad Ali was undefeated until he fought Frazier when he came back, and Frazier, we know what Frazier did. He lost to Frazier, lost to Ken Norton, and then of course, like later on Spinks, Burbick, and all like that. But with all that being said, Serena is one of my top 5 with Bo Jackson, Wilt Chamberlain, and put whoever else you want in there. You could put Mike in there if you want. I don't have a problem with that. Jim Thorpe, you could put Jim Thorpe in there if you want. I don't have a problem with that.
Is it so? Jim Thorpe, is it the picture with him running with like mismatch shoes?
Never noticed that actually. But Jim Thorpe was like he played like 3 different sports and dominated.
Yeah, and he was in the Olympics as I think a sprinter or something.
He was a
And
sprinter in the Olympics. He played football. I want to
mm,
say he was a baseball player. He dominated. He was just a dominant athlete, and nobody ever really talks about him because of the era he was in. But
yeah, because he's Native American, so they're like,
and he's Native American, so they have a hard time giving him his credit for that too.
Bo Jackson doesn't deserve to be on the list. I'm sorry.
Why? When you talk
Longevity. He
talk
didn't. I
about
mean,
talk about
he
greatest athletes, we didn't say greatest winners. We said greatest athletes, and that can change the whole conversation. I know, but
he
he
was
was.
one. He was one of the first. He was the first to technically. He actually wasn't the first. He was the second or the third to play both sports or 2 sports. But can you name one of the first ones?
Jim Thorpe.
Smart ass. Um, how about that Danny Ainge
Danny Ainge played baseball, right?
for the Toronto Blue Jays, and then he also played for the Celtics.
Yeah, he played for the Celtics. Yeah,
Yeah.
punk ass. Yeah. So okay, so here we go. Here we go. Here's one for you. Well, let me put these comments up. They was coming in. R. Dot says Ali lost to both Frazier and Norton, but followed up to beat them twice. It's a hard call anything a boxing a rivalry. I'm sorry. I'm. It's hard to call anything a rivalry in boxing because they never really fight more than 3 times.
Which is
And
true.
if
That's
they
true.
fight 3 times, you gotta kind of call that a rivalry. If it's 3
You,
fight like Bo Holyfield, you kind of call that a rivalry just because they fought 3 times.
you know what would have been a legit rivalry and would still be considered even to this day a rivalry. Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell.
Absolutely, and that's what I was saying.
Yeah,
Wilt had a rival.
yeah.
He had one rival that won many championships, played on a team full of Hall of Famers.
Hmm.
Okay, not to take anything from Bill Russell, but Bill Russell has said himself, Wilt was better than him.
Yeah, but
Now, he did tell other players later on down the line that he would kick their ass.
right.
Quote, but
That
Bill
is
Russell,
yeah.
Bill Russell has admitted that Wilt was better than him. Does Brian Jordan deserve a spot at the table? What's Brian
Abs-
Jordan known for?
man. Delete. Can you R
How
dot
can you
can't
put that in there? I
he
can't
can't
even.
he can't respond for 12 minutes.
Yeah, he's on the
He
cool down period. Brian Jordan,
suspended. He's suspended for 12 minutes.
what did Brian Jordan do memorable ever? Like, I mean, look, I like Brian Jordan. He was a decent athlete. He was a football and baseball player. Come on, man. Come on, man. Come on, man. We running short on time, so we're not going to get into the Phillies and the Eagles. But the Eagles did make a big trade today. I shouldn't really call it a big trade. Darnell says Dion. I addressed that earlier. Dion was a two-sport athlete, not a great. He didn't do anything dominant in baseball. That's why he doesn't get on this list. As he is one of my favorite athletes of all time, Dion doesn't get on this list. He when you talk about a Bo Jackson, a Michael Jordan, a Jim Thorpe, a Wilt Chamberlain, Dion doesn't get there. Just personally for me. Venus and Serena, he said, just took the L. I guess they just took the L in the U.S. Open in doubles. They haven't played doubles in a long time, so I didn't expect anything to happen there.
Doubles don't count.
What we got here? Jalen Reager and what's the name?
Davion Taylor.
Davion Taylor both traded from the Eagles. Ironically enough, Jalen Reager is going to the Minnesota Vikings, who drafted Justin Jefferson, who the Eagles fan base wanted drafted before Jalen Reager anyway. So,
but this is significant because it's the first time the Eagles ever almost traded their draft picks within like the first 3 years. They never do that. Just like because like with JJ Arcega-Whiteside, they moved this man from wide receiver to tight end to try to salvage his career.
And now he's a practice squatter.
Now he's a practice squatter. But this, and say what you want about Howie Roseman. Say what you want about him. I mean, it usually takes him a long time to admit when he's completely wrong about a draft pick. But here are 3 draft picks that he was wrong about, and he got rid of them within 5 years, which, I think is a good thing when you admit you're wrong and you get rid of your mistakes. Reager had so much potential, but there was an article today that said that most of the Eagles were like supportive and they really are wishing him the best, and they think that a change of scenery would help.
Liked him,
huh?
I'm sure they liked him.
I was just that last game when he dropped I think that pass in New York in the end zone that lost the game. I was like, oh man, he don't look. He had that faraway look, like he didn't know like how much time he was going to be on this. I'm like, I've seen that look before.
Yeah, I can't even think of the guy's name, but he had the one great season with the Eagles the year they won the Super Bowl, and then he's like in Oakland or
Nelson Aguilar.
He was one that couldn't catch a cold for a while, except for 1 year. And I remember that one pass in Atlanta, he catches it, he scores, we win the game, it goes right through his hands, and that was pretty much.
And remember the meme with the dude from the fire.
He's trying to start a debate with me right now. Brian Jordan has many MLB All-Star.
You should have never mentioned Bo Jackson.
What did Brian Jordan do memorable? What is he remembered for? What did he do?
R. Dot just proved my point. Take Bo Jackson off the list.
If you have a chance to have Bo Jackson or Brian Jordan on your football or baseball team, who are you picking? You
want to know my answer?
Yes, I do. Because if you say anybody but Bo Jackson, the show is over. I'm telling you right now.
In my mind, Brian Jordan's not going to damage his hip and need hip replacement surgery. I always think
he's not strong enough. He wasn't strong enough He wasn't strong enough to get injured. Come on, man. Not strong enough to get hurt. Strong people get hurt.
He was great in Tecmo Bowl.
So was Bo. Hold on. You saying Bo was great or Brian Jordan?
Bo Jackson was great.
I'm about to say I don't even remember Brian Jordan in Tecmo Bowl.
I don't even know if he was born yet.
I don't even know remember Brian Jordan in Madden, for that matter. I've never heard him say, "Yo, I can't wait to get Brian Jordan autographed." And I liked Brian Jordan. I liked him, but he didn't. I never feared him. No. I didn't see Brian Jordan throw somebody out from the wall, somebody with top speed in the league. I've never seen it. You can. I'm sure maybe you can find it and show. I've never seen it. I'm just saying, Brian. I can't believe. Listen, I can't believe. Look, Ryan is one of my best friends in the world. Okay. I cannot believe that he would have the audacity to compare, and I'm going to put this on social media. How do you have the audacity to compare Brian Jordan to Bo Jackson?
I want to say something.
Bo Jackson still has sneakers coming out.
We made history here tonight. Justin, that is the closest I've ever seen you, like physically to the screen. Like I see I see I see your eyes.
Jackson, though, like Brian Jordan and Bo Jackson.
Justin is triggered.
Like, come on, man. Let's be honest. Bo was known for breaking back. Hold on, let me put. See, he's going to. I wanted to show.
Going in
10 o'clock. He said Bo was known for breaking bats. He had 141 home runs in 9 seasons, 15 a year. Such a feared hitter. Make a mistake to Bo Jackson. Make a mistake. Make a mistake. Make a mistake to Bo with somebody on base. And run on Bo. Who would you rather run on, Bo Jackson or Brian Jordan? Who would you rather?
He's gonna make.
Who would you rather go head up in the Oklahoma drill with, Bo Jackson or Brian Jordan? Don't call me today. Don't call me. You gotta wait till tomorrow to the come up. Don't call me today. Brian Jordan, dog, and Brian Jordan, really? Come on, man. And like I said, I liked Brian Jordan. Brian Jordan averaged 20 home runs a season. That's great. That's great. And he played on the team with how many great players too. It wasn't really pitching around Brian Jordan. You didn't mind making a mistake to Brian Jordan.
But Brian Jordan also averaged 30 points higher in his batting average than Bo Jackson.
Because I guarantee you Brian Jordan didn't get pitched around. I guarantee you Brian Jordan did not get pitched around.
So
what you and R.1 are trying to tell me that Brian Jordan was a better athlete than Bo Jackson, because there's a lot of baseball stuff y'all putting out there. It's a lot of baseball stuff y'all putting out there.
I'll end with this one stat.
Who wins in a foot race, Brian Jordan or Bo Jackson? Because they're both fast.
Because Brian Jordan had both of his hips. So Brian Jordan,
Bo Jackson did it all on one hip. Let's not forget that too.
No, he didn't. Remember when he
did after he broke his hip.
Not after he broke his hip, exactly. So Brian Jordan averaged 94 strikeouts a season. I want you to guess.
Average like 175 at least.
196.
I said at least. At least.
So
he was a free swinger.
But you said that they pitch around him.
Yeah, and he was aggressive.
Here's what I would do.
Here's a plain and simple question. Better athlete. Because that's the question we're asking. Better athlete. Brian Jordan or Bo Jackson? I'm taking Deion Sanders over Brian Jordan. I am. I'm taking Deion over Brian Jordan. Better athlete. Who was the better athlete? Brian Jordan or Bo Jackson?
I would have Brian Jordan start on my team and then bring in Bo Jackson as a defensive replacement.
I'm running on Brian Jordan all day. What was my man name in Seattle?
Ichiro?
No. My man that got thrown out by Bo Jackson. His name slipping my mind.
Oh, Harold Reynolds.
Harold Reynolds. Brian Jordan throwing out Harold Reynolds the way Bo Jackson did.
No, but he's going to be in the lineup.
I don't even know why you're even thinking. Like, what is there to think about? What is there to think about there?
Because Bo Jackson wouldn't be in the lineup the next season. I think about this. I think about
you're thinking about a lot of intangibles. We're saying
intangibles. He broke his damn hip.
Who was the better athlete? He broke his hip. Nobody broke. He broke his own doggone hip because he was that damn strong. Who was the better athlete? Bo Jackson or Brian Jordan? You're thinking too long.
You know what Bo Jackson.
Okay, let me stop you right there.
Played a full season.
Let me stop you right there. Was Brian Jordan even on your mind at the beginning of this conversation? No, he wasn't. No way. No.
I haven't thought about Brian Jordan. I haven't heard.
In how long? Since he stopped playing sports, right?
Since Madden 98.
The only reason Brian Jordan before today was ever mentioned on this show is because I mentioned him as some of the athletes that I like that played for the Atlanta Braves in the 90s. It's the only reason Brian Jordan has ever been mentioned on this show.
Do you remember? I think it was like our second or third show we ever did. We did a what if.
You mentioned Brian Jordan?
Let me finish. You were really triggered. I love it. Remember the first list we did, or one of the first two lists we did was the greatest athletes if they weren't injured, if they weren't injury prone. Remember? And Bo Jackson was like the number one person on our list.
Absolutely. I'm not answering that call. I'm not answering the call. I'm letting you know right now.
You can't discriminate, bro.
Okay. All right. I'll put him on. Just for you. I'll put him on. As soon as the thing gets finished, I'll put him on. Here we go. He's on. R. How you doing? Oh, hold on. Let me unmute it. I'm sorry. R. How you doing?
Good evening, gentlemen.
Hey, sir. How are you healing?
Man, it might be the meds talking.
It sounds like it, actually.
I do believe that Brian Jordan was a better baseball player than Bo Jackson.
And played on a better team with a better lineup too.
Can you blame him for that?
I can't, but I can hold it against him when we're talking about two different athletes. There's been many baseball conversations that we've had where we said this guy probably would not be what he was had he not been batting between this guy and that guy.
You sound like
Bo Jackson is the guy that makes the guy behind him better or the guy in front of him better.
Not if he doesn't play. Not if he doesn't play due to injury. Most games he played in this season was 135. He averaged like 110. He's always injured.
How many games Bryce Harper played this year?
12.
I mean, you're talking about the amount of games, but is Bryce Harper still one of the best athletes in baseball today?
Yes, he's played full seasons.
Did he play a full season since he's been with the Phillies?
Yes, last year. He missed what, a week, 2 weeks last year?
That's not a full season. It's not a full season. He missed more than a week, but it's not a full season. Let's call it what it is. Let's call it what it is. Now it's definitely the Mets talking because Brian Jordan, like better baseball player. Brian Jordan played on a better team, had better opportunities. Bo Jackson, free swinger, home run hitter. I'm taking Bo Jackson before I'm taking Brian Jordan in any sport.
I would take I would take Bo Jackson, but I know that I would have to limit his carries.
You didn't know that before he broke his own hip, breaking a tackle.
I knew that when he's freaking missing 35, 40 games in the base playing baseball.
But that wasn't until he broke his hip. It wasn't.
That's not true.
Okay. All right. It might not be true. I might have made that up. I might have made that up for the sake of argument. I might have made that up.
You definitely made that up.
I might have. Might have made that up.
All right,
But
not
strong
counting his rookie
athletes.
year.
Strong athletes get hurt. Ain't that right, Ryan?
That is very true.
See, there you go. Strong
I'm not
athletes
one
get
of them,
hurt.
but
Ryan
shitty
is on the
athletes
shelf
get hurt.
right now because he blew his knee out. Strong athletes get hurt. Miguel, you've walked to practice in a boot or a brace many times.
Bro, I'm on a brace now. What the hell are you talking about?
Strong athletes get
But
hurt.
I still threw 300
12th guy on the bench
pitches
ain't
in
never on
batting
the injured
practice.
list. 12th
Huh?
guy on the bench never on the injured list. Never.
Because that's
And
Brian
if he
Jordan.
is, he's going to get cut. Because you can't be the 12th guy and get hurt. You're wasting money and a spot for somebody that could be doing something. There's nobody on earth but us right here talking about Brian Jordan. Nobody. Nobody. Come on, man. Miguel, Dot, thanks for the call. We're going to get ready to close this show out.
Are you banging on?
No. I mean, we've been on. It's time. We got to go, man. I'm thirsty. Where's my water?
All right, can we just end on not a solemn note, but just
Well, we're gonna end. Are you? I'm gonna put this up right here. Rest in peace.
yeah,
To,
yeah.
definitely gonna mention that. He's the GM for the '93 Phillies. Put that team together. The one of the most fun Philly seasons I can remember growing up. Rest in peace to him. He put together the Cardinals too. Am I correct?
He was the player development director for the St. Louis Cardinals in the 80s. So he constructed the running Redbirds that won a World Series in 82, and they went to the World Series in 85 and 87.
Gotcha. See, I was gonna put that in there. I wasn't gonna forget. Rest in peace, Lee Thomas, man.
We got to do the thing just real quick. I got to stump you.
Yeah. I definitely want to do that. Let's get that together because I'm pretty sure you're going to stump me because I'm flustered, and it better not be Brian Jordan. And it better not be Brian Jordan.
I'm gonna do that next week.
It'll play for the Braves and the Reds. Oh, let me get Dot back in here real quick.
St. Louis. No, he played for the Cardinals too. That's where I remember him on the
Cardinals.
Cardinals.
The Cardinals? Okay.
Yeah, Brian Jordan was Cardinals.
Braves and Cardinals. Okay.
Gotcha. You're thinking of Brian Hunter. Brian Hunter played for the Braves. He was that he batted right and he threw left and he looked like a chipmunk.
Oh, let me see. Okay, so we're looking at a two-time All-Star. Good Lord. A two-time All-Star. Looks like he played for the Mets. I see the Phillies in there. Maybe the Yanks.
No. He played for
Nationals?
The who?
Is that the Nationals next to the Phillies?
No.
Damn. All right. Well, you tell me who he played for.
He played for the Mets, the Kansas City Royals, the St. Louis Cardinals, the Phillies, the Detroit Tigers, and the Anaheim Angels of Anaheim.
The Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim.
There you go. I think I got you this week because you were on a streak. You had 7 or 8 in a row. Tell me
the teams again, and then tell me the era in which this guy played.
The Nueva York Mets, the Kansas City Royals, the St. Louis Cardinals, Philadelphia Phillies, Detroit Tigers, Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. And he played from the late 80s until the late 90s.
When did he play for the Phillies? You don't have to give me the year, but was it the 80s or the 90s?
90s.
It's not Kim Baptiste, is it?
No.
That's the first name that came to mind. What position?
Yes.
Really? Okay.
So all right. He started out as a middle infielder, dabbled in the outfield, went to first base, and that was about it. So he played every position except for pitcher, catcher, and center field.
Ricky Jordan?
Absolutely not.
I'm just throwing names out there. I'm trying to think of guys that played for the Phillies in the mid '90s or in the early to mid '90s.
So this is an honor and tribute to Lee Thomas. This was a Lee Thomas signing. And it was who?
Eisenreich?
No,
Incaviglia?
no. It was after the '93 team. It was a
Okay.
big, humongous signing.
The person that I think it is, I cannot remember their name. Oh man, I can't remember. Was it Ryan? Oh no, what was his name? Oh, I can't think of his name. Oh my goodness, I can't. You got me because I cannot think of his name. But I think if it's who it is, I'll say that's who I was thinking of. But I'll be honest if it's not. But I do remember he came after the '93 team, and he was supposed to be really good. And I don't really remember Greg Jeffries.
Greg Jeffries.
Woo! I don't know how it just came to my head, but that's what came to me. Yeah, Greg Jeffries. Yeah, wow. Greg Jeffries.
He
Jeffries better than Brian Jordan?
We got to add a new segment. Is he better than Brian Jordan?
Better than Brian Jordan. Greg Jeffries. Wow.
You know, he's on the list of players or athletes that have had the dumbest injuries ever. I was at this game. It was at the vet, and he hit a triple, and he dove head first, and all of a sudden he left the game. So rumor was he went on the DL because he injured his hand on the slide, but someone had outed him and said he actually injured. He cramped. He was playing a Game Boy for like 72 straight hours and pulled the muscle and got tendonitis in his thumb.
What?
Yeah, that was the alleged rumor of his injury. But he hit it by slide because he was like it was one of those triples he didn't have to slide, but he did, and then he slid head first. So when I think about it, I'm like, why would you slide head first and there's no throw?
It's called having fun.
Yeah, it's called hiding the injury because he didn't want to look like a jerk, even though he was a jerk in real life.
It's called having fun playing baseball. Hey, R. Stay on the phone. We're gonna bring you in a little bit just after the show, just to have some conversation. But we're going to. Oh, you want a question, Miguel? I'm sorry. I know.
No, I don't want a question. Yeah, I'll take a question.
All right. I'm shuffling the cards if you can hear it. I know you can hear it because I can hear it. All right, here we go. Your questions. Here we go. Oh man, this is gonna be a tough one. Logos and mascots is the category.
Brian Jordan.
All right, which two colors surround the silhouette of a baseball player in the MLB logo? Easy.
What colors?
What two colors?
Red and blue.
Absolutely. Which card suit is featured on the WNBA Las Vegas Aces logo? Which card suit?
On which team?
The Las Vegas Aces, the WNBA team, Las Vegas Aces.
They have a team in Las Vegas?
Mm-hmm. They're actually playing in the semifinals right now. I'll give you it's multiple choice: clubs, diamonds, or hearts.
Diamonds.
Diamonds is correct.
Because diamonds are a girl's best friend.
How about that? So they say. Which color is the tongue on the Jacksonville Jaguars logo?
There's a
Ooh, that's
tongue on
a good one.
what?
Yeah, I didn't know. That's a good question. Here are your multiple choice.
So the colors are like that turquoise. The Jaguar is like the black spots and the gold hair,
Mm-hmm.
and then the whiskers are like white. Is the tongue red?
Your choices are gold, white, or teal.
White.
See what happens when you make me think hard? No, white is incorrect. The correct answer is teal.
Teal. Yeah.
Seems like a pretty dumb color for a tongue, but whatever. Um, which NHL team logo does not feature a star in its design? Here are your choices: Dallas Stars, Ottawa Senators, Columbus Blue Jackets. Which of those three does not feature a star in its design?
Senators.
Senators is correct. Now, what shape is shown inside both letter A's in the American Motorcyclist Association's AMA logo? Would you like me to read that again?
Yeah.
What shape is shown inside both letter A's in the American Motorcyclist Association's logo, the AMA? This would be a good question for Spin Raker.
The uvula. I have no idea.
All right, so I'll give you the multiple choices. Tire, handlebar, or star. Okay. Don't think too hard on this one.
Handlebars.
No, the correct answer is star. All right, here we go.
Are you serious? A star.
You just don't think too hard. Okay. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, last 5. Here we go. Which is not the name of one of the famous racing sausages? I'm sorry.
What?
I don't vet these questions before I just pick
You
a card.
obviously don't.
Which is not the name of one of the famous racing sausages of the Milwaukee Brewers? And I'll give you the
I
three
think I
choices.
might know this one.
Oh, go ahead. You want to?
No. I mean, like, say it,
Okay.
and then I might know it.
Your choices are chorizo, frankfurter, and hot dog.
And you said which one's not the name?
What is not the name?
Chorizo.
Chorizo is incorrect. The correct
Chorizo's
answer-
not a sausage.
Well, that's one of the names, I guess.
What the hell's
The,
going on?
the correct answer is frankfurter. Frankfurter. I wouldn't have.
Why do you have chorizos running with sauce? What's the next question? I'm getting irritated.
Which mashed up animal does the University of Cincinnati use as its team mascot? Do you need the multiple choice?
Yes.
Wolf spider, bearcat, turkey vulture.
So they got multiple species making.
Yeah, they call it a mashup.
What was the panther pit? What was the other?
Wolf spider, bearcat.
Bearcat. I'll go bearcat.
Bearcat is correct. I'm so glad you got that right. I'll do that one. Which university has an orange-shaped football mascot named Otto? Do you? If I'll give you the multiple choice, but I'll give you the multiple choice, you're gonna get it immediately. You want the multiple choice?
Mm-hmm.
Your choices are Miami, Clemson, Syracuse.
Syracuse?
Syracuse is correct. To Syracuse Orange. They used to call them Orangemen. Now they just call them the Syracuse Orange. I don't know why they changed that though.
Oh, that's probably a. They didn't want to offend women.
Yeah, maybe. I think that might be. I think you might be
It's
right about
because if you say
because
orange,
the
then
women's
it's
can't be
not
the orange men,
inclusive.
right?
Yeah.
But then now, like it's 2022. You know what? Never mind. Let me go into the next question before I get myself in trouble. Here you go. What is the name of the official mascot of the Buffalo Sabres? Your choices are Charge, Sabretooth, Nash, Gash, Gnash.
Yeah, it's Nash, but the G is silent, but
Nash.
it's like
Okay.
Nash. I'll go Saber Toothus.
Sabretooth is correct. Last question. Last question. You're almost done. Which is not the name of the track mascot on the NASCAR racing circuit? I'll read that again. Which is not the name of a track mascot on the NASCAR racing circuit? Your choices are I didn't even know NASCAR had a doggone mascot, to be honest with you. But okay, here we go. Your choices
What do
are
you do with a mascot at a racing event?
I don't know, they probably dance on the dugouts or something, or whatever the pit roof. So I have no idea. I don't know. I'm not,
They're making 500 left turns. What the hell is a mascot gonna
I
do?
don't know. I mean, that's a good question. But here are your choices: Monkey Wrench, Lug Bolt, Lefty Turner. You just said they make a whole bunch of left turns. That's funny.
What was it? Lug balls? What was it called?
Monkey Wrench, Lug Bolt, Lefty Turner.
The monkey nuts. What was it called? The first one.
Monkey Wrench.
Yeah, him.
Monkey Wrench is incorrect. The correct answer is Lug Bolt. I like that name, Lefty Turner, though. I think I might create
Lefty
a,
Turner.
create a social media profile called Lefty Turner. But actually, there's probably already one. Anyway, uh, an hour and a half later, we are finished with this episode of the Check Swing Podcast. Make sure you check us out over on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and all that good stuff wherever you listen, because we will be there tomorrow. And of course, as I have my phone ringing right now, so obvious that my cousin is not checking out the show. Um, and of course, we want to thank George Robinson for joining us today and giving us some insight into some of the happenings of the inner happenings of the HBCUs in the athletic department. And we want to thank y'all for checking us out and listening, and for commenting and all that good stuff. And for myself and Miguel, we're going to get up out of here. We appreciate y'all. Y'all have a great holiday weekend. And we'll talk to y'all next time here on the Check Swing Podcast. Y'all be good.